What if Anakin Skywalker fell in love with Asajj Ventress? Let's begin today's story at the very beginning of the Clone Wars. Asajj Ventress and Count Dooku have kidnapped Jabba the Hutt's baby and have taken him to the planet Teth. This caused uproar in the Hutt crime family, and the Jedi began an investigation to rescue him. Tracking the baby on Teth, Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano invade the settlement. The Separatists mount a strong defense, with tanks and droids everywhere. Anakin and the 501st fight through the droids. This was one of the earliest battles of the Clone War, and the spirits of the clones and Jedi generals were high. This was exemplified on the battlefield as they fought for victory. Anakin would eventually fight his way through the Separatists until he encounters Asajj Ventress. They engage in a duel. Asajj was a different kind of fighter. She wielded 2 red lightsabers and fought with skill and ambition. She was from Dathomir, the same place as the late Maul. When Anakin fights Asajj, he realizes that she is very proficient with a lightsaber. She begins to speak to Skywalker, taunting him. She mentions the Jedi and their false perceptions of right and wrong. Anakin gets riled up, but can't help but notice that she is powerful and beautiful. After a few more swings, Asajj is able to escape, but Anakin is left with the thought of curiosity. The Republic wins the battle and the Clone Wars continue. It wouldn't be long until Anakin sees her again. After a few different campaigns and battles throughout the Outer Rim, Anakin and his troops are moved to Christophsis. As they engage with the enemy, Anakin can't help but sense Asajj's presence through the Force, and he tells his men to press forward. As Rex directs his men through the middle, Anakin informs him that he is going to flank from the side. As he goes from building to building, he is once again encountered by Asajj Ventress. She smiles as she sees him, and they begin to speak to each other. Ventress compliments that the war has put a good look on his face, that in times of conflict, he thrives. They swing their blades at each other, but the talking never stops. Asajj has a way with words. She was breaking through his defenses metaphorically. It was almost like her taunting wasn't taunting at all, but instead flirting. Anakin tried to rub it off, to disregard what she was saying, but he couldn't. He couldn't help but look at her when she spoke and feel her presence in the Force. It was oddly soothing. As they lock their blades, she places her hand on his cheek. Anakin quickly disengages. He is flustered and doesn't know what to do. Anakin returns to his troops where they push forward and win the battle. After this mission, Anakin would go back to Coruscant where he spends the night with his wife. It felt wrong. Although they were newlyweds, he couldn't help but wonder about Asajj. He begins to think about their duels and conversations they shared. It was different, exciting. He hadn't felt this way in a long time. Padme was so excited to be there, and although he entertained her excitement, he couldn't help but think of another place far away. Even as Anakin sleeps in the same bed as Padme, his mind is elsewhere. It was wrong, and he knew it. Soon after, the Jedi Council receives word that Asajj was spotted on Yavin 4. Anakin requests to go on the mission, explaining to the Jedi Masters that he has lots of experience fighting Ventress. He believes he can win. This is accepted, and he is dispatched with his troops to fight the Separatists. Anakin and Asajj would meet yet again, but this time something was different. As the droids and clones were fighting each other, Anakin and Ventress were alone fighting, but this wasn't fighting at all. In fact, they were speaking more than dueling. Their sapphire and crimson blades were lit, but only as a vanity to adhere to warfare guidelines. Ventress asks why she hasn't seen him in a few months, joking that there must be more battles worth more of his time compared to her. Anakin laughs, but says she knows that he would rather fight her. This constant banter continues without a single strike being thrown. This was ridiculous, so Ventress steps forward and lunges at Anakin. Their blades collide and lock, neither moving from this position. This caused their faces to get closer, and Ventress began to smile. It was clear that there was a connection between these two, their eyes only inches away from each other. The tension was broken by Captain Rex, who contacted Anakin on his comlink and told him that his forces were able to break through enemy lines and are on the verge of victory. As Asajj hears this, she turns her blade off, giving Anakin the chance to kill her, but she knew he wouldn't. She tells Skywalker she hopes to see him again soon, winking and clearly flirting with him. After this mission, Anakin begins to think about Ventress all the time, and she never leaves his mind. A few months go by, and Anakin has seen her once or twice, but never in the same context. One time 2 months back, she fought her alongside Obi-Wan. Even though she was fighting for her life, the two couldn't help but stare at each other the entire time. The tension between them was palpable, and Kenobi sensed it too. However, things would change when Count Dooku tries to kill his apprentice. Barely escaping, Ventress was left completely and utterly alone. When Anakin heard this, his peers were only excited, but Anakin couldn't help but feel sorry for her, wishing he could help. Days later, she reaches out to him on a private communication call, telling him that she needs his help. Without even thinking, Anakin would go to the lower levels of Coruscant to see her. Sneaking out of his bed with his wife next to him, Anakin finds Asajj. When she sees him, she hugs him, which confuses Anakin but brings him comfort. They speak for a little bit, but Anakin asks what is going on. Ventress backs up, sadness painted across her face. She explains that Dooku left her, and now she doesn't know what to do. The Separatists were her life. Her master was her life. She doesn't have another path now. Anakin, optimistic as ever, tells her that she can come back and become a Jedi again. She laughs at the idea, saying that the Jedi would never accept her and her time as a Jedi was over. As Anakin lowers her head, Ventress adds that she heard the Jedi Council permits that she isn't allowed to have attachments, and that is something she couldn't do, staring directly into his eyes and smiling. Anakin is taken aback and asks what she means. In this moment, she confesses her love for Anakin, explaining that she has been thinking about him ever since their first battle on Teth. She grabs him and kisses him, taking the Jedi Knight by surprise, but Skywalker doesn't back away. Ventress tells him to meet her in the same place tomorrow and leaves. Anakin goes home but doesn't know what to think. He finds Padme in bed asleep and he goes to the balcony to think. Allowing the soothing night of Coruscant to drift his mind, he thought about his options. Padme is safe. She will always be good for him. She is respected and people love her. But there's something different about Ventress. He has never felt this way before. He knew deep in his heart that he loved Asajj more. She has this darkness to her that Anakin finds so relatable. He can be himself with Ventress, not have to change who he is to suit some political or diplomatic notion with Padme. He has made up her mind. He needs to tell Padme, but he doesn't know how. Anakin would meet with Asajj the next day. They speak and flirt for a little bit until she asks how he feels. Anakin would tell her that he loves her and they kiss. Anakin asks what happens now. She says that she wants to kill Dooku. He has completely ruined her life. Skywalker tells Ventress that she shouldn't kill him out of revenge. It will only fuel her lust for the dark side. She said that she wants to help the Republic and knows his death will strike a massive blow for the Separatists. Although Anakin accepted this, Ventress didn't really believe it herself. She just wanted her master dead. Anakin and Asajj agree that they will hunt down Dooku and kill him. They travel to Dathomir where Mother tells them gives them secret disguises making them invisible and only perceivable through the Force. She also gives Ventress a Jedi lightsaber so that Dooku wouldn't know that it was her attacking him. They travel to his castle on Sereno where they sneak through the vents. Shooting him with a poisoned dart, he becomes disorientated and the two ignite their sabers and begin to fight him. Dooku is able to retrieve his weapon and block a few strikes, but the combined strength of two proficient Force users is more than enough and Dooku is killed. Ventress was extremely delighted, but for different reasons to Anakin. She runs over and hugs him, thanking him for his help. Surprisingly, through going on a journey with Anakin, he made her realize love and happiness, something that she hadn't felt in years and what drove her to the dark side. She didn't fully return to the light, but she wasn't a slave to the darkness anymore. She was a grey Jedi. Anakin will travel back to Coruscant where he tells the council that Dooku is dead. They are all shocked but extremely proud of Anakin, asking the Chosen One how he did it. Anakin mentions his alliance with Ventress, to which the Jedi Council look around in judgment. They tell Skywalker that he is working with a traitor, a dark side user, but Anakin assures him that she isn't that person anymore and is trying to be better. The Jedi could never take her back. Yoda asks Anakin to bring her before them. Perhaps she can gain their trust again by informing the council of her knowledge of the Sith and Separatists. Anakin summons Ventress, but she is extremely reluctant to go, knowing how risky it was to return to the Jedi Temple after all of the unforgivable things that she has done. Anakin is able to persuade her though. She stands in the center of the council chambers, feeling a mixture of awkwardness and fear. Windu asks her if she has heard the name Sidious. Ventress explains that Sidious is Dooku's master and the true lord of the Sith. She has spoken to him a few times via a hologram on various occasions. The biggest question the Jedi had, does she know who Sidious is? To their disappointment, she didn't, but they ask if she can get in contact with him and figure it out, but this would be impossible. Sidious is the one who ordered her death, meaning that she won't be able to get anywhere close to him. When the council members drop their heads in disappointment, she explains that Dooku would often speak of the Lemerge building on Coruscant as his meeting place with Sidious. The council's intrigue immediately returned and they were shocked. Windu asked if she meant to say that Sidious has been on Coruscant this entire time. Asajj doesn't know for sure, but she had never heard of Dooku meeting with the Dark Lord anywhere else. Ki-Adi-Mundi interjects, explaining that means Sidious is likely on Coruscant most of the time, otherwise there is no reason to risk sneaking in and out of the Republic's capital. Kenobi wondered what there could be on Coruscant that would cause the Sith Lord to take such a risk to remain on the planet with so many Jedi and clones around. Shakti would mention the Senate or the courts, but her idea was tossed to the side. That was simply impossible. Yoda says that the dark side is clouding their thoughts. There was only one thing to do in the situation. Anakin explains that he and Ventress will go to the Lemerge building and investigate. Before they leave, Windu explains that he will join them. The three go to the building immediately. Windu tells them to be on high alert. Ventress is still wielding her two Jedi blades, with one saber resembling blue and the other green. Windu didn't appreciate this, but he let the thought leave his mind. Anakin asks Mace if he thinks there is a chance Sidious will be there. Windu thought for a moment, explaining that the Lemerge building is deep in the outskirts of Coruscant and hasn't been in operation for years. It is the perfect hideout. As their shuttle arrives, they see a figure sprinting for the exit. Anakin and Asajj immediately begin their pursuit, running after him. Windu remained at the ship in case of the person coming back. The two were chasing him out, but he was fast, clearly using the Force to speed up his legs. Asajj can recognize by his hood and cloak that this is Sidious. They chase him for as long as possible, but eventually lose him. Anakin is extremely upset and anger washes throughout his body. They return to the hangar where they see Windu. Anakin can tell that the Master is deep in thought, contemplating something. Anakin asks the Master what is wrong. Windu stares at Skywalker, complete horror entrenching his mind. Anakin had never seen this emotion on Windu's face before. He points at the ship in the corner of the hangar bay. Windu explained that he was confused because this was the Republic Executive Shuttle, a shuttle only used by the Chancellor or Vice Chancellor. Windu quickly contacts the Jedi Temple, who explained that Palpatine isn't at his office right now and that his ship is gone. Different thoughts and ideas run throughout the Jedi's mind. They are lost and confused. That is until a massive realization dawned upon Windu. Chancellor Palpatine is the Sith Lord. It all made sense now. He tries to tell Anakin, but he won't accept it, saying that Palpatine is not a bad man. But Windu asks Skywalker to think about it. That's why he can't meet Dooku off-world, because it would be suspicious if the Chancellor is constantly leaving. Being Chancellor was the perfect disguise. He was able to control the war and the Senate from the highest position in the galaxy. Thoughts kept coming in and out of Windu's mind. He also mentioned how it explained why Dooku told Obi-Wan that the Sith Lord was in control of the Senate, because the Sith Lord is the Chancellor. Anakin tried to dispute what he was saying, but Ventress says that it actually makes sense. She knew from her talks with Dooku that Sidious had orchestrated the entire war and was bending its events to his liking. She always wondered how he had that much influence behind the scenes, but if he was Chancellor, it would be easy. They couldn't believe it and immediately returned to the Jedi Temple, where they informed the Council what they had learned. Everyone felt a mixture of anger and fear. They had been manipulated the entire war. They wait until Palpatine is back in his office, where the current council members on Coruscant, including Anakin and Ventress, go to arrest him. Igniting their lightsabers, Windu tells Palpatine that he is under arrest. Ventress notices Palpatine's eyes dart towards her, and when she saw his face up close, she knew for a fact that it was him. Fear rushed throughout her entire body. Palpatine stands to his feet and explains that they are committing treason. Igniting his red lightsaber, he leaps towards the Jedi. Slicing down Shakti and Agen Kola, he begins to swing at the Jedi. He was an ambitious Jedi, and although he was able to kill more Jedi with Adi Gallia and Fisto falling, Anakin and Windu would eventually combine their attacks and kill the Sith Lord. Their nightmare was over. Sidious and Dooku were dead. The necessary motions were made in the Senate in order to ensure a peaceful transition of power. Days after the news of Dooku and Sidious's death were released to the public, the remaining Separatist leaders surrendered and the Republic won the Clone Wars. After the death of Sidious, Anakin and Asajj would once again confess their love for each other and say that they want to spend the rest of their lives together. The following day, Anakin would break up with Padme, something that upset her so deeply and she couldn't understand why. Anakin hated seeing her in pain, but he knew that this was the best thing for both of them. He couldn't keep living this lie. Anakin decided that he didn't want to keep another relationship in the dark and would face the consequences of his actions. He tells the Jedi Council that he is in love with Asajj Ventress, a move that completely shocks all of them, and despite Kenobi's protest to allow Anakin to stay, the Chosen One is expelled from the Jedi Order. But Anakin didn't mind, and this is what he had expected. The war tired him out and he just wanted to be with Asajj. They travel to Bespin where they begin their lives together by getting married. Soon after the war, Asajj falls pregnant and they have their first child. This child, named Jin after Qui-Gon, is one of the most powerful Force beings ever created. Birthed from both a strong Force user and the Chosen One, its midi-chlorian count was unprecedentedly high. The Jedi came to retrieve the baby upon its birth, but the Skywalkers refused. They welcomed another 2 kids who were equally as strong. The Council realized their mistakes in expelling Anakin and knew that the Order wouldn't get to see their talents. Anakin and Ventress's love for each other never dies, and they lived the rest of their lives together in happiness and solitude. Anakin had never felt so complete and believed that he had finally achieved what he wanted in life. Their love is pure and they live happily ever after. If you enjoyed today's video, you must watch What If Anakin and Shakti Fell in Love and What If Anakin Became a Jedi Master During the Clone Wars. Please check out our membership page if you would like to support the channel. It really helps us out. Thank you all for watching and may the Force be with you.